Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? Today we're going to be talking about the strength and resilience of Black women in today's world.
Definitely a timely and powerful topic.
It is. We'll be mainly focusing on this recent blog post titled The Strength and Struggles, addressing the exhaustion of Black women in societal battles. Have you heard of this idea of invisible labor?
I have.
Well, that's one of the things we'll be unpacking today. Get ready. Okay, so this post starts off talking about duality.
Okay.
It says Black women are always kind of like navigating these expectations that are tied to both their race and degender.
Right.
It's like double the pressure, right?
Absolutely.
But like, isn't the strong Black woman idea empowering?
Yeah.
How does that fit in with this whole exhaustion thing?
It's interesting because, that strong Black woman image is like a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
It does acknowledge resilience, but at the same time, it kind of creates this pressure
Yeah.
to always be strong.
Yeah.
And to never show vulnerability.
Like you can't have a bad day.
Exactly. And that can actually lead to some serious consequences.
Like what happens when you're always expected to be the strong one? Never allowed to like break down or just,
Right.
not be okay.
Well, imagine
Yeah.
constantly just pushing down your feelings, hiding your pain,
Right?
but you're not supposed to show any weakness.
Yeah.
And over time, that could really lead to a buildup of unaddressed, trauma and stress.
Oh, absolutely.
And just think about that.
Yeah.
What does that do to your mental health?
So you're dealing with these incredible pressures and often internalizing your pain.
Yeah.
So where do you even begin to find support
Yeah.
and healing?
That's where community and self-care becomes super vital.
Absolutely.
But we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
I think it's important first to understand how we even got here.
Yeah.
Like, to really grasp this exhaustion Black women face today, we really have to look back at the historical context.
Right. The blog post mentions like the legacy of slavery in the United States and how that's had this lasting impact. But it goes beyond that, right?
Absolutely.
What?
Systemic racism and sexism, they didn't just disappear,
Yeah.
with emancipation.
Right.
Think about Jim Crow laws, segregation, the ongoing fight for equal pay and representation. I mean,
Yeah.
these issues are very deeply intertwined with the struggles Black women face today.
It's like layers upon layers of oppression.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like centuries of this, battling these systems that constantly tell you you're not enough. And on top of that, you're expected to be the strong one, the
Yeah.
caregiver,
Right.
the pillar of the community. And that brings us back to this concept of invisible labor,
Exactly.
which, I think a lot of people still don't fully grasp.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond like, this is the typical household chores thing,
Right.
right? It's about the unseen, often unappreciated emotional work that Black women are expected to do. Like, can you give me a specific example, something our listeners can really like latch on to?
Have you ever felt the pressure to like code switch at work?
Oh, yeah.
To like tone down your personality?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Make sure you don't come across as too assertive or too angry.
Right.
I mean, that is a form of invisible labor that many Black women navigate daily.
That's such a good point. You're constantly adjusting and trying to fit into these boxes that weren't made for you.
Right.
No wonder there's this sense of exhaustion.
Exactly. Yeah, it's draining.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally. And then when you add in like the lack of access to resources,
Right.
the economic disparities,
Right.
the lack of culturally competent mental health care, I mean, you can see how it all just piles up.
It's a lot.
It is.
So you're battling these external forces,
Yeah.
but then you also have this like internal pressure.
Yeah.
The strong Black woman syndrome, as this post calls it.
Exactly. It's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
You're told to be strong,
Yeah.
And never show weakness. And that pressure can be incredibly isolating. It prevents you from like seeking help
Right.
and even acknowledging your own needs.
It's like society is saying you're strong enough to handle it all on your own, but that's not realistic, is it?
Not at all. We all need support. We all need moments of vulnerability. And that's something that the blog post really emphasizes.
Okay.
The importance of community and self-care.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Where do you find that support? When you're constantly told to be the strong one.
Or the post talks about the power of community. Having those spaces where you can let your guard down
Right.
and you can be seen and heard and understood.
So it's not just your family, but like your chosen family.
Yeah.
Your friends, your mentors,
Right. People who get it.
those who get it.
Yeah. And it's not even just about emotional support. It's about practical support too. It's about having people who can help you with childcare,
Right.
who can just offer a listening ear when you're feeling overwhelmed, who can connect you with resources that you might not know about.
And creating those spaces where you can celebrate your joy and your culture and your identity
Absolutely.
without having to explain or defend yourself.
Exactly. And this is where the role of allies becomes super important.
Yes. It's not enough to just be not racist. You have to be actively anti-racist.
Yes.
But how can allies be more effective in supporting Black women?
It starts with listening. Really listening to the experiences of Black women, their stories, their perspectives. Don't try to speak for them or over them.
So amplifying their voices.
Yeah.
Creating space for them to share their truths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being willing to learn and unlearn. We all have biases, conscious or unconscious.
Of course.
And it's important to be aware of those biases and how they might be affecting, our interactions.
So being open to feedback, being willing to be called out when we mess up, and being committed to doing better.
Absolutely. And then it's about taking action. Don't just talk about supporting Black women. Actually, do something.
Like, give me some examples. What are some concrete actions that allies can take?
It could be donating to organizations that support Black women, volunteering your time, or speaking out against racism and sexism in your own circles.
So putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak. But it's also about those everyday actions.
Right.
Like being mindful of who you're supporting with your purchases, being intentional about amplifying Black voices on social media.
Absolutely. And it's about challenging discriminatory practices wherever you see them, whether it's in your workplace, your community, or even within your own family.
Right. It's about not being a bystander. It's about using your privilege to create a more just and equitable world. But the post also emphasizes that individual actions, while important, aren't enough on their own. We need systemic change.
Absolutely. We need to address the root causes of these issues, the systemic racism and sexism that have been baked into our institutions.
For centuries.
Yes.
For centuries.
But where do we even begin with something as massive as systemic change? It can feel so overwhelming.
It can, but the post offers some concrete starting points.
For example, it talks about advocating for inclusive policies, promoting diversity in leadership positions, and challenging discriminatory practices in all areas of life.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. What are some examples of policies that would specifically benefit Black women?
Well, we could start with policies that address the gender pay gap, which disproportionately affects Black women.
And policies that support affordable childcare, which would allow more Black women to participate in the workforce.
And policies that protect Black women from discrimination in housing, healthcare, and education.
So it's about looking at all these systems, all these areas where Black women are facing barriers, and advocating for changes that create a more level playing field.
Exactly. It's about pushing for policies that recognize the unique challenges that Black women face and that provide the support they need to thrive.
But it's not just about passing laws, right? It's about making sure that those laws are actually enforced and implemented effectively.
Absolutely, and that requires ongoing vigilance, advocacy, and holding our elected officials accountable.
So voting, contacting our representatives, getting involved in local politics, those are all crucial steps.
And it's about supporting organizations that are working to advance these policies, whether through lobbying, litigation, or grassroots organizing.
So donating our time or money, volunteering our skills, spreading the word about their work.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that systemic change requires a multifaceted approach and that we all have a role to play.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about self-care. The Post emphasizes this as a crucial aspect of navigating these challenges, but for Black women who are often expected to care for everyone else, taking time for themselves can feel selfish or even impossible.
Right.
So what does self-care actually look like in this context?
It's about redefining self-care in a way that's meaningful and accessible. It's about recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup.
So it's not just about bubble baths and spa days, although those can be lovely too.
Right. It's about setting boundaries, saying no to requests that drain your energy, and carving out time for activities that bring you joy and peace.
So maybe it's spending time in nature, listening to music, connecting with friends, or pursuing a hobby that brings you fulfillment.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing your mental health, seeking therapy or counseling or connecting with supportive communities.
And it's about recognizing that self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yes.
It's about replenishing your own well so that you can continue to fight for yourself and your community.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that you deserve care and attention, just like everyone else.
And it's about challenging those internalized messages that tell you that you're not worthy of rest, that you have to constantly be strong for everyone else.
Exactly. It's about dismantling those harmful narratives and embracing a more holistic approach to well-being.
You know, one of the things that really struck me about the post was the way it connected the personal and the political. It
Yes.
talks about these very personal experiences of exhaustion, of feeling overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
of struggling to cope with the demands of everyday life.
Right.
But it also connects those experiences to larger societal issues like systemic racism and sexism.
It's saying that the personal is political, that our individual experiences are shaped by these larger forces, and that we can't address one without addressing the other.
And it's a reminder that these issues aren't just abstract concepts, they have real impacts on people's lives.
Exactly. And those impacts are often invisible, especially when it comes to the emotional labor and the mental health toll that Black women experience.
So it's about bringing those experiences to light, making them visible, and acknowledging the very real human cost of these systems of oppression.
Absolutely. And it's about understanding that our individual actions, while important, aren't enough on their own. We need systemic change to truly address the root causes of these issues.
So it's about working on both levels, the personal and the political, the individual and the collective.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that our actions have ripple effects.
That extend far beyond ourselves.
Exactly.
And it's about believing that change is possible, that a more just and equitable world is within reach if we're willing to work for it.
It's a vision worth fighting for.
Absolutely. And I think it's a vision that's fueled by the hope and resilience of Black women themselves.
Right. They're leading the way, showing us what's possible, and inspiring us to join them in the fight for a better future.
So let's dive a little deeper into some of the specific strategies that the post outlines for creating change. For example, it talks about the importance of raising awareness.
Okay.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, it starts with educating ourselves and others about the issues that Black women face, reading books and articles, watching documentaries, attending workshops and lectures. These are all great ways to deepen our understanding.
And it's about sharing what we learn with others, right? Having conversations with our friends and family, colleagues, and classmates about these issues.
Exactly. It's about breaking the silence, challenging stereotypes,
Yeah.
and creating a more informed and aware society.
And the post also talks about the importance of promoting diverse voices. What are some concrete ways to do that?
One way is to support Black women in leadership positions, whether it's in politics, business, or community organizations. We need to be advocating for their representation at all levels of decision-making.
It's about making sure that their voices are heard at the table,
Yes.
that their perspectives are valued, and that their contributions are recognized.
Absolutely. And it's about creating opportunities for young Black women to develop their leadership skills and to see themselves as future leaders.
So mentorship, sponsorship, creating pathways for advancement, those are all crucial.
Yes. And it's not just about formal leadership roles. It's also about amplifying the voices of Black women in our everyday lives.
Like sharing their work on social media, recommending their books and articles, inviting them to speak at events, and generally creating spaces where their voices can be heard.
Exactly. It's about making sure that their perspectives are represented in all aspects of our culture and society.
The post also mentions the importance of advocating for inclusive policies. What are some examples of policies that would benefit Black women?
Well, we could start with policies that address the gender pay gap, which disproportionately affects Black women.
And policies that support affordable childcare, which would allow more Black women to participate in the workforce.
And policies that protect Black women from discrimination in housing, healthcare, and education.
It's about creating a system that's fair and equitable for everyone, and that recognizes the unique challenges that Black women face.
And it's about making sure that those policies are actually enforced and implemented effectively.
So it's not just about passing laws, it's about making sure that those laws actually translate into real change in people's lives.
Exactly.
The post also emphasizes the importance of challenging discriminatory practices whenever we see them. What advice would you give to someone who wants to be more active in challenging discrimination, but maybe isn't sure how to do it effectively?
I think the first step is to educate yourself about the different forms that discrimination can take. It's not always overt or intentional. Sometimes it's subtle, even unconscious.
So being aware of microaggressions, implicit bias, systemic barriers, all of those things.
Exactly. And then it's about being willing to speak up, even when it's uncomfortable. If you see someone being treated unfairly, say something. If you hear someone making a racist or sexist joke, challenge them.
It's about not being a bystander, right?
Right.
It's about being an active participant in creating a more just and equitable world.
And it's about being mindful of the impact of our words and actions, even when we don't intend to cause harm.
So being thoughtful, being respectful, being willing to listen and learn.
And remembering that even small actions can make a difference. Every time we challenge discrimination, we're chipping away at these systems of oppression and creating a more inclusive and welcoming society for everyone.
It's easy to feel kind of overwhelmed by all this, you know?
It is.
But I like how the post highlights that even like small actions can create a ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about waiting for that perfect opportunity or becoming a superhero overnight. It's really about consistently choosing to do the right thing, even in those seemingly small moments.
So if you're feeling inspired to actually make a difference but not sure where to start, what would you suggest?
Or remember those 3 key areas we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Raising awareness, promoting diverse voices, advocating for inclusive policies. Those are great places to focus your energy.
Okay, so let's break those down into some actionable steps.
Okay.
Starting with raising awareness. How can we go beyond our own bubbles and really expand our understanding of the issues?
Think about the media you consume. Are you actively seeking out diverse perspectives?
Right.
Challenge yourself to read books and articles by Black women.
Okay.
Listen to podcasts that center their voices. Watch documentaries that explore their experiences.
So diversify your news feed. Be intentional about the content you're engaging with.
Exactly. And it's not just about passively absorbing information. You really have to engage with it critically.
Yeah.
Reflect on what you learn. And even have those sometimes uncomfortable conversations with others.
Right, like talking to your family and friends about these issues, sharing those thought-provoking articles on social media, speaking up when you hear stereotypes or misinformation being spread.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're being more conscious of the media we consume and having those really important conversations. What about promoting diverse voices? How do we ensure Black women are truly represented and heard in all areas of society?
It's about being intentional in who you support and amplify. Think about the businesses you frequent, the organizations you donate to, the content creators you follow. Are you actively seeking out and supporting Black women?
So putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Exactly.
But also using your platform, however big or small, to highlight their work and their accomplishments.
Absolutely. And even challenge yourself to think beyond just those individual actions.
Are there leadership positions in your community or workplace where Black women are underrepresented?
Yeah.
Can you advocate for their inclusion?
Right. Speaking up in those spaces where decisions are made, that can make a real difference.
Absolutely. And mentorship is a really powerful tool as well. Can you offer your time and expertise to support a young Black woman in her career or even her personal development?
Those are all great points. Now let's talk about advocating for inclusive policies. This is where we move beyond individual actions.
Yes.
And really start tackling those systemic barriers.
Exactly. Think about the areas we discussed earlier. The gender pay gap, affordable childcare, access to quality healthcare and education. Are there organizations in your community advocating for policies that address these issues?
Right. You can volunteer your time, donate to their cause, or even just spread the word about their work.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as signing a petition or contacting your elected officials. That can have an impact. It can. And remember, voting is crucial. Do your research on the candidates and their stances on issues that affect Black women.
Yeah.
Your vote is your voice, and it can make a real difference in shaping the policies that impact our communities.
It's so inspiring to see how much we can actually do, to create meaningful change when we actually put our minds to it.
We can.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. We've explored some heavy topics today, but ultimately this deep dive is about empowerment. It's about recognizing the incredible strength and resilience of Black women. And it's about all of us working together to create a world where they can truly thrive.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Remember, even small actions can create a ripple effect. Keep learning, keep listening, and keep fighting for a mind world.
Absolutely.
Until next time.